Angela Fowler on the podcast today. She is the founder of Real Life Access, and it's a business that teaches other businesses how to make their business more accessible. And what separates you from other accessibility advocates?
Assume capability unless proven otherwise.
Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. I am your host, Devon Wieters, and today we have Angela Fowler on the podcast today. She is hilarious, first of all, and she is the founder of Real Life Access, and it's a business that teaches other businesses how to make their business more accessible. Again, she's hilarious and delightful. And so I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to throw you guys into the middle of this conversation because what was happening is we were pre-chatting and she didn't realize that we weren't recording the actual podcast yet, which was my fault because I didn't tell her we weren't on yet actually recording. So because I have my Zoom set up to automatically start recording when I start the meeting, and it was recording and she did not know it. It was recording and she knew it, but she thought we were on a podcast. And we weren't on the actual podcast yet. We were just chatting because I like to chat with the guest for a few minutes before we start recording the actual podcast. So I'm going to throw you guys into the middle of this conversation because this chat was so good and so funny that I thought, let's just leave it in. So enjoy my conversation with Angela Fowler.
How you doing?
Good. So tell me a little bit about you.
I'm an accessibility coach. Basically, I teach small to medium-sized businesses how to be accessible to people with disabilities and by so doing, user-friendly for everybody else.
That is amazing. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about the business. How did you start it? Everything.
It started out of a mindset shift. I don't know if you, let me start from the very beginning. So, in case it isn't obvious, I am totally blind, which means I can't see anything and never could. And blind people, like every other group, have special interest organizations that advocate for the thing that whatever the issues are that are important to blind people. And anytime you're involved in one of those organizations, they tend to become echo chambers for frustration.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, so what happens is
Same thing for people in wheelchairs and stuff too.
absolutely. And you get to a point where it becomes us against them. So what happens is it's an incubator of resentment, right? If you're not careful. So I was caught up with that for a number of years. So when I would run into something that wasn't accessible, I'd get frustrated. I'd blame the business. Oh, these people don't care, this and this. But in 2021, I took a job that really changed my mindset. I was working for a contractor that was doing some work on the Department of Veterans Affairs website, the VA website. And my job was to teach their designers and developers how to make their website accessible to people with disabilities and user-friendly for everybody. As I'm working with these folks, and they had varying degrees of knowledge on accessibility, some knew more than I did, and some were clueless. But the common denominator is that everybody wants to do the right thing. I just realized everybody wants to do the right thing. They just don't know what the right thing is. And the sort of climax of the whole thing was even people who were initially resistant to accessibility, because people are resistant to change, and sometimes accessibility requires change. When I showed them the real life benefits of accessibility, not the legal mandate, but the actual benefits to actual people, they became some of my strongest allies.
That is what I've experienced as well. When people actually see the good it does and what it's for, then they jump on board, but they just have to know what it's for.
They have to know, and those in the advocacy movement that assume that because the ADA was passed 30 years ago or whatever it was.
Oh God, yeah. Please don't even
Don't even go there.
Don't even go there.
A law that doesn't apply to you because you're not in the category that the law affects. Who the hell is going to think about that naturally?
I know.
If you don't have a brick and mortar business.
It's funny, and no shade to able-bodied people. I love able-bodied people, but it's funny how able-bodied people think that just because it says disability on a piece of paper, that means everything is solved. I'm like, no, that's not solved at all.
If you met one person with a disability, you met one person with a disability.
Yeah, everybody's needs are so different that you can't just sign one piece of paper for everybody and realize you can't sign a piece of paper for all of them either, but you can't just sign one piece of paper for everybody 30 years ago and then call it quits.
It provides a legal backing, but it really should be a last resort.
Yes.
We really should be able to work with people first because it does. You're right. A focus on compliance does tend to cause a generalization in how people view people with disabilities. As a blind person, I don't need the accessible room in a hotel.
Sure. No.
I do not need it. Save it for somebody who actually does need it.
I, however, do. And people have tried to give you the accessible room in a hotel before.
that has happened to other. It hasn't actually happened to me. Hey, you're interrupting an interview. Sorry.
We haven't started yet. I can cut this out.
Oh, we haven't? No. I thought we were on.
But we can leave this in too. This is really good.
All that sharp shit and we weren't even on?
It's recording, but we haven't started the actual interview. I like to talk to the guest for a minute before.
I only have a certain amount of intelligent thoughts every day, and I just wasted 25% of them.
No, these are good though. Maybe we'll leave this in before we start the.
Where were we?
Yeah.
So what do you do since we're not actually interviewing? I thought we were. Since we're not actually interviewing, what do you do?
I just do this right now.
Okay. So
I want to get a job desperately, but I want to do it with minimal impact to my benefits right now because I really need those benefits right now. And that's one of the things that I advocate for is there are four. I remember three off the top of my head, but there are 4 pieces of legislation that reform the Medicaid and Social Security, and some of them have been sitting in Congress for decades and nothing's been done with them. So I'm trying under President Trump to get at least 2 of the 4 passed.
We have our legislative efforts, and I don't think when it comes to blind people, and I get it about benefits and Medicaid and this and that, and some of us need it more than others. I told them all to go to hell 5 years ago.
Oh, I'm trying to tell them to go to hell.
Than that because it's it creates dependence. It really does.
Noise, I would argue.
Yeah, but I don't involve I might yet, but I'm not as involved in the legislative advocacy work as I used to be because I don't think government's the solution to our problems.
I usually don't think so either, but honestly, this is the only way I can see to get off these things without screwing over my parents' retirement.
Yeah.
My parents are like saints and they are willing to have their retirement somewhat screwed over so I can get off these things eventually. But I don't want to screw over their retirement.
Yeah, of course. And it's all different depending on whether you're one of those people that never goes to the doctor or whether you have needs that more of a need than that is how easy it is to just tell the government to go
F themselves. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I got a job at the college and our community college. No, it was back when I was working for the Center for Independent Living. So, damn, it was 10 years ago. No, what the hell year are we in? I don't even
24?
25, yeah. And working for a nonprofit, they actually had a really good benefits package. So I was able to cover myself and my son. And I just told them, look, I don't need y'all anymore.
Just taking a quick break from the show to remind you to subscribe to this podcast. Go to realwithit.com/subscribe. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to realwithit.com/YouTube. And if you subscribe on YouTube or Spotify, hit the bell. It really helps us out. So subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening by hitting the subscribe or follow button. Or by going to realwithit.com/subscribe or realwithit.com/YouTube. Now back to the show. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Real With It. My name is Devon Wieters, and today we have Angela Fowler on the podcast, and she's just awesome. So I'm going to let her tell you about her. But hi, Angela. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
I know you guys have already heard a little bit of this conversation. You jumped in the middle because we're going to leave some of the pre-chat in. But tell us about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, excluding what I covered in the pre-chat. So in 2024, I launched Real Life Access because I was thinking to myself, if it is the case for web designers and web developers that people want to do the right thing, they just don't know what the right thing is. So if that's the case, what about businesses? What about corporations? Corporate leaders, business owners, so they're human beings too. So what if I took a pro-business approach to accessibility? Now, this is not what the advocates usually do. It's a different message.
No.
And I started looking into it, and I don't know about any of the other forms of accessibility, physical accessibility, cultural accessibility, but if you invest in quality digital accessibility, now when I say quality digital accessibility, I don't mean one of those quick fix plugins that those are partial solutions at best.
Although that's a good start. We're not against the plugins, but
We're against. Okay, so let me dive into this. First of all, let me make the point I was originally going to make. If you invest in quality web accessibility, and a plugin can be one small part of that solution, but you are looking at up to a 9x return on your investment. Now, plugins. The good, the bad, and the ugly. They will not make your website accessible. They will not make your website compliant. If they say they're doing that, you need to run away. They can do one of two things. They can enhance the visual experience. So how that works is that allows you're allowing the user to customize the visual experience, because it's impossible to design for all the visual needs of people, because some of them contradict each other. So what these plugins do is they allow the user to go in and customize it. Another thing that they can do, if you build your own website or if you edit your content, they can scan your page and make sure that any new content you post is, well, it catches some accessibility errors. It's a basic compliance thing, but it doesn't catch everything. It will catch enough of the things.
yeah, to make it
helpful.
You tried, but not the best website, I would say.
For example, and this really helps me, it will tell you if something does not meet color contrast.
Yes, that is one good thing that they will do. It'll tell you there's not enough color contrast.
Now, that especially as a blind person, that's really helpful because, yeah, hard to tell. It will tell you that there is not an alt text on something.
And explain what alt text is for our audience
and
why that's.
When you upload an image and there's this text box where you can add the the description.
Yes, yeah.
And
so
you
basically,
can't see,
it's like describing what the image.
And you can't see the text, so you're like, why the heck did I even write that? That actually describes the image so that if a blind person comes across the image using a screen reader,
and screen readers are, explain what screen readers are for the audience.
Well, I need to go back. I'm sorry. I am jumping ahead here. So a screen reader is a software program that actually reads the text on the screen for blind people. So that, because obviously we don't have our eyes that work, so we use our ears. So if something is actual readable text, not image, not pictures of text, but actual readable typed in text, the screen reader will be able to read it.
Yeah, so those are really cool for blind people and essential. And just a tip for our small business audiences, if you go into Voic, the Twitter AI chatbot, and I'm sure Chat does this too, and type upload the image and then type write alt text for this image, it will write it for you. So you didn't even have to do it. So it's very easy to do now, especially with Chat GPT and Goik and stuff like that.
Now, AI generated alt text is better than no alt text. But say you have the California State Capitol. If a human being looks at that image, the first thing they're going to think is California State Capitol. That's what it is. That's the important information. And that really should be your alt text. AI is going to describe it. It's going to say big building with whatever. So it's going to give you this big long-winded description, but you're not going to necessarily know that's the California State Capitol.
Okay, so just put more concise descriptions. That's a good tip.
I don't know. I mean, if you're up in Tahoe and you're up on one of the hiking trails and you snap a picture, the AI description is going to be really good for that, because the point of the picture is its description. But the thing that you want to do when you're writing alt text or having AI write alt text, whatever the case may be, is ask yourself, what information do I want gleaned from this image? See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, for example, I like to use the image of an apple tree. In most cases, you'd probably mark that decorative, right? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with the content of the text of the page.
Yes.
And it's just distracting. But maybe you don't. Maybe you want to write an alt description. Maybe you just say it's apple tree. That's your alt text. So you know there's an apple tree there. But if it's a real estate listing, for example, you might want to describe the apple tree, especially if it looks really good, and describe where it is and what it provides shade to this side of the house or whatever. If it's a gardening magazine, you probably want to include the variety of apple tree. And that's probably more important than the description. So writing alt text is an art, not a science. But again, bad alt text is better than no alt text at all.
So thank you for the tip. I will consider that when I'm writing my own alt text. But I really do encourage you to try Voic, the Twitter chatbot. Whether you like Twitter or not, I encourage you to, because it is so good. So the alt text might be better than what you would do if Chat GPT.
You never know. It's worth a try.
So I would be interested to have you try it and then email me with feedback. What made you want to do this? Help businesses become accessible?
I want to be part of the solution. I don't just want to be one of those people that complains about the problem. I want to be part of the solution.
That's a very good reason. And what separates you from other accessibility advocates?
Two things. One, I have lived experience. Most accessibility specialists, there aren't that many totally blind accessibility specialists out there. There's a few, so I have a particular expertise in screen reader accessibility. But there's a lot of people that work in accessibility, and God bless them, they're doing great work, but they don't have the lived experience. The other thing that separates me is I take a pro-business approach. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to guilt trip you. I'm here to teach you. I have the heart of a teacher. I could fix your website, make it accessible, and I will do that if that's what the client wants. But if I teach you to make your website accessible, then it's going to stay accessible.
Yes. So how do you teach people to make their website accessible and keep it accessible? I have a feeling I know the answer, but for the people in our audience.
I have a number of coaching programs. I do one-on-one coaching. I have courses. I have a course. My digital accessibility course in my flagship course series focuses on accessible content, because without content, nothing else can be accessible. I don't care how accessible the framework of your website is. If people can't read your content, it's not accessible. I offer one-on-one coaching. I offer group coaching. My services are really personalized to whatever the client needs.
What kind of services do you offer?
So like I said, I have my flagship courses, which are based on the 3 categories of accessibility. We talked about digital accessibility, which is the accessibility of everything that comes to you electronically. Then there's physical accessibility, which is accessibility of everything in the environment, everything from the entrance to a building to, I don't know, if there's loud music playing somewhere, that's an accessibility issue, right?
Yes.
Unless you're at a rock concert, in which case it's expected. But if you're trying to wander around a festival and talk to different people and find your way around and there's music blaring, that's an accessibility problem. So that falls under physical too. Cultural accessibility is basically the premise of cultural accessibility is that difference is ordinary. When difference is ordinary, accessibility becomes second nature.
That is an amazing answer. That is the quote that's going on Instagram, people. That is the quote. You say that 25% of people have a disability. There are statistics out there that say it's much less than that. Did you come up with that percentage?
Absolutely. Thank you. Those statistics came from the government, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
The government only counts people from age 18 to 64.
Yep. Don't count all the 80-year-olds.
And seniors have higher rates of disability than younger people. In fact, if you live long enough, you are going to have a disability. So therefore, I hope you have a disability.
Yes, that means you've lived a long life.
Exactly.
There's this comedian, Josh Brew. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's hilarious. Have you heard of Josh?
No.
He has a mild version of CP, and one of his jokes is that people with disabilities are the only minority group that you can join at any time, which is true. Yeah, if you have a disability, that means you've lived.
It does. And the 25% of the population does not count situational disabilities.
And situational disabilities are something
Say you break your arm.
Yeah, okay. And let's say you're colorblind. That would be, color blindness would be one, right?
Not situational. Color blindness is more permanent, but temporary disabilities, situational disabilities, I'm getting my language all mixed up. Disability is, for example, if you're in a situation where the lighting sucks and you really can't, or there's whiteout conditions or whatever.
And you
Or
can't see.
maybe you're in a situation where you're trying to watch a toddler and so your eyes aren't focused on the screen. This is why things need to be made accessible non-visually, not just for blind people. The eyes aren't always focused on what you're listening to. They're focused on the road or they're focused on your children. A temporary disability is like a broken arm, something that happens to you and it messes you up for a while, then you get better. Those statistics also don't factor in the fact that accessibility equals usability. So the things we do to make our things accessible to people with disabilities also make them user-friendly for everybody.
Speaking of that, when businesses make themselves accessible, what's the return on the investment? Because I hear people all the time say, we don't have the money, we don't have the money. I'm like, you're going to be making a lot more money if you.
Yeah, so good quality website accessibility investment could net you up to a 9x return. Now, it is a reality for a lot of small businesses that they don't have the budget to overhaul their website. So
small businesses are good, but
right. Well,
it's just the big businesses that I have a problem with. Yeah, you don't have the money. You make $100 million a year.
Either case,
not that we're against making $100 million a year, but
in either case, I take a harm reduction approach. So I say, okay, if you have a limited budget, if you haven't allocated what we need in your budget for this cycle, let's fix the most egregious things first.
Yes. So let's fix the website, fix the door frame if it's brick and mortar, and then we can, or the bathroom if it's brick and mortar.
We can move on to the other stuff.
And then we can move on, yes.
Yeah. And it's a lot less intimidating for people when I approach it that way.
Yeah. So if you don't have the money, just start with the most egregious and then go forward from there.
And here's something else. Most accessibility fixes don't cost anything.
And name a few that don't cost anything.
For example, If you don't have an alt tag on one of your images, it doesn't cost anything or hardly anything to go in and write one. Just a little bit of time. Your web developer will probably just do it along with everything else they're doing. Part of the maintenance plan. If you have a potted plant in the middle of your hallway,
Yes.
it costs
Oh
you
my God.
nothing.
That's happened to me so many
It
times.
costs you nothing to move that thing. It costs you nothing to verbalize your slides in meetings so that blind people can follow you and don't
Yes.
fall asleep. Do you want engaged blind people or do you want snoring blind people? That's the question. I took, like everybody else, it's a rite of passage. It's initiation into the world of adulthood. You have to take math. And I was always very vocal about the teachers describing what they were doing. Because when you say, okay, so you take this and you add it to this, and that doesn't help me. Invariably, like literally every single class from high school forward, one of the sighted members of the class, at least one, maybe more, would come up to me and thank me. Because by verbalizing the content, the professor was helping them as well.
Yes, that's awesome. That's hilarious. That's a hilarious story, but that's a true story. That's so awesome. Gosh, okay. And it also costs you nothing to use live captions on Google Slides that will not only transcribe the video slides, it will transcribe what you are saying during the lecture. So if you are a professor, that would be amazing. One of my professors started doing that during COVID when we had to wear a mask. And I'm like, I didn't even know I needed this until now because it helps me to see and hear what's being said.
Oh yeah, the masks were an accessibility disaster.
Yes. Tell us one of the many ways that they were just.
It's a little harder for you to hear me when something is over my mouth.
Yes. And
Also,
if you have fine and gross motor issues, it's almost impossible to put one on. So you're just like, here, put it on.
if you have breathing difficulties,
Yes.
it makes it hard for everybody to breathe, and especially if you have breathing difficulties. If you lip read, somebody wearing a mask, you can't. It's gonna be hard. Yeah, they honestly they caused a lot more problems than they solved. In fact,
yes, they did.
honestly, they didn't solve anything.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
Maybe the N95s for the healthcare workers, but other than that.
Yeah, but the COVID masks that we all still have laying around somewhere. Every once in a while, I'll find a COVID mask. Those are not the N95 masks. So I think you got a couple more of these, right?
Yes. What's the biggest challenge that you've encountered accessibility wise for blind people or just people in general?
Ooh, good question. The biggest challenge I personally experienced, honestly, being in a situation where that is so loud that I literally can't navigate it.
Yes. And why would noise affect you navigating?
Because blind people need our ears to see where we're going.
Yes. So you can hear the tapping
So
of the floor.
so I can hear where people are, and I can hear if somebody says, hey, the entrance is over here, I can actually hear them. If I want to have a conversation with somebody, I can actually hear what they're saying. It's disorienting. And when the sound system is turned up so loud that it distorts the sound, that makes it exponentially worse. So yeah, that wasn't the answer you were expecting, was it?
No, it wasn't. So where can people get a hold of you?
Go to www.com.
And where can people follow you on social media, if any?
I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, something else. Oh, YouTube. I got a YouTube channel. All my socials are on my website.
And what's your social handle so people can just type it in if they want? And if not, you can go to our website. Just go to our website, you'll find it.
It's www.reallifeaccess.com, and I think it's in the footer. It's either in the footer or the right-hand sidebar. I don't know where it is. Oh gosh, I think my YouTube channel is Real Life Access.
Just go to the website, you'll find it.
Just go to the website. I think that's my Twitter handle too. LinkedIn, I can't remember whether I've got my page, the company profile, or my personal profile up there, but either way.
Anything else that you would like to add before we get off here? You've been delightful, by the way.
Thanks. Whatever you think people with a disability can do, you're probably underestimating it. Now, again, not everybody can do all the things, and some disabilities are more of a pain in the butt than others. And it also depends on how much experience you have with that particular disability, right? Somebody who's been a blind person for 40 years is going to be a heck of a lot better at being a blind person than somebody that just went blind.
Yes. And I will add that some of the restrictions that society places on people with disabilities are more of a pain in the ass than disabilities themselves.
I'm going to do a YouTube series on disability myths.
Yes, and please, yes. That is desperately needed.
People just don't know, and people are unaware. But whatever your preconceived notion of what we can do, suspend disbelief. Assume capability, unless proven otherwise.
Yes, thank you.
Now again, they still won't let me drive a semi-truck.
No, I don't. I'm all for inclusion, but I don't think you need to be driving no.
Might be fun. If everybody just stay out of the way, we'd be fine. But no, this is not to say that everybody can do all the things. There's things that everybody has things that they just can't do, but assume capability unless proven otherwise.
Say that one louder for the people in the back and then drop the mic.
Absolutely. Assume capability unless proven otherwise. Another one is approach with curiosity, not skepticism.
What? Okay, you're dropping wisdom bombs. Okay, go ahead.
And that's just it. I don't mind people asking me how I do stuff. I really don't, because how the heck else are they going to learn? And we do. We call them alternative techniques. We do things different than the way that most people do them. But approach with curiosity, not skepticism.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have you back, I think, one of these days. And we will see you guys.
We'll see if your audience wants me back, right?
We don't have enough listeners for people to complain yet. We will see you guys next episode. Subscribe, hit the bell if you're on YouTube or Spotify, and we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell so you'll get notified when we upload new episodes. See you next time.